All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon to talk about campus recruiting and coronavirus. My name is Corey Gernert, and I am the Assistant Director for Events here at the Career and Professional Development Services Office. And today we are going to be joined by some team members from Employer Relations in Career and Professional Development Services. We're going to just be chatting a little bit about how campus recruiting has been affected by coronavirus and what we are doing to keep it going strong. So this session is being recorded, and we will have a copy of the recording available after the session. We'll go ahead and send a recap email either later today or tomorrow with what'll have information about what we've talked about today, as well as a link to the recording. So couple of housekeeping items. I have everybody on mute. Please remain on mute. Videos can be on or off, whichever you prefer. We will, if you do have questions during this time, please put them in the chat box, and we will be answering them towards the end of the session. If we don't get to your questions, we will respond to them individually if you go ahead and leave your email with your question. So we'll get to those. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about how campus recruiting has been affected by coronavirus and kind of like what our new normal looks like and the options that we do have now for recruiting. We do have a lot of things available virtually, so we do want to talk about that with everybody here. So we want to make sure that we are able to maintain connections with employers and the university and be able to still connect employers and students together. So I am going to kick it over to Courtney Walker. She's our Associate Director, and she's going to kind of talk a little bit about the big picture of campus recruiting. Courtney?
Yes, thank you, Corey. So as Corey had mentioned, my name is Courtney Walker. I'm an Associate Director on our Employer Relations team with Career and Professional Development Services. So for those of you that may not be familiar specifically what our Employer Relations team does, is we really work with employers to help you further engage with ASU students, helping you to develop a strategy that would make sense for you and your organization so that as you're looking to recruit our students, we're able to assist you and really being very specific about the candidates that you might be looking to attract and what would make you more attractive to those candidates. So really talking through how we bridge between a student and employer. So again, this is really a conversation about how we can support you and what the virtual recruiting space looks like now. What we've heard from employers in this past probably 6 weeks or so is a lot of movement forward, which is really hopeful, especially during this time. So in the very beginning of the pandemic, if I can call it that, there was a lot of uncertainty from industry. A lot of employers were wondering how they were going to move forward with the work that they needed to do and the goals that they needed to meet related to filling their talent pipeline. And so there was a lot of conversations with them specifically around virtual internships, but even more, I think it's now landed into the space of what kind of other platforms are being used with employers. And just kind of providing a lot of thought leadership in that space to be able to learn from employers, but then also to be able to share in this way that we're doing today. So again, in the very beginning, there's a lot of uncertainty, but now there's been a lot of knowledge in terms of employers some industries were able to pivot right away and put a lot of internships online. Even more, they were planning for the fall, and the offers that they were offering for the fall, they were now realizing that those needed to be supported in an online modality as well. So I think that it made a shift. Everybody just kind of had to pause and collect their breath and then plan forward from there. And that's definitely what we've heard in terms of conversations with employers. And so if that's you, or if that's not you, whatever that looks like, my hope and goal for today is that you would share, and I'm going to ask you to share via the chat box, maybe what you've learned in this past 6 weeks. And anything that you share in that chat box today, we're going to be able to share in an email out Again, the goal is to learn from each other, but really to be able to guide that conversation as well. So being, again, kind of forced into this virtual space, although I would argue that the employer community as a whole, and I'm guessing that maybe this is you, you guys were already using virtual tools to complete your work. Everything from resume collection to hosting interviews online, all of those different pieces of it. My guess is that you guys were already used to working in this virtual space. So I really want to talk through and take pause and evaluate, and maybe you can think through along with me, your recruiting process as a whole, right? So everything from recruiting the candidate, so before maybe you came onto campus, or maybe you were actively posting in Handshake. I hope that you were doing both maybe, all the way through hiring and then supporting that candidate. And that could look like whether that was for a full-time or part-time position, or maybe it was an internship. But I really want to encourage you through this conversation, think and take pause and evaluate what that looked like for you and your organization. And how are you shifting now to meet those goals, okay? So we talked about recruiting, and maybe that was online, now shifting to a more online resume review and interviewing. But then even further, if you plan to hire a candidate, we're learning from students, transparency is key in that whole process. We know our students are across the spectrum of identities, and so being transparent about what that process is helps them to plan better, right? We've heard in the news of different capacities and different populations of students. So maybe students have very low socioeconomic statuses, or they're back at home with their parents. That maybe it may not be conducive for learning or studying or taking phone calls. So if you're transparent about what that is going to look like, that helps them to plan a little bit better. Similarly, onboarding. If you've not considered already taking your onboarding online, or what that's going to look like, maybe that would support your work in filling your talent pipeline that way as well. Because we know that we might be in this for a few more months. So again, we'd rather have and support any kind of knowledge sharing in that onboarding process to make sure that you're successful. And so if that's you, please let us know, and we'll be able to share information about maybe some platforms that we would recommend for onboarding. I get emails every day about different platforms that they want us to take advantage of. So I'm happy to share those with you as well. And again, I'll encourage you to use that chat function. If you have an onboarding tool that you're already using, please share it, so again, we can share with the rest of the registrants. And then once they are hiring, what does supporting candidates look like? What does it look like to make sure that they're being successful? We know that, again, there's a spectrum of different needs for different candidates. So we want to make sure that they're successful in their opportunity. Long ago are the days where somebody can walk down the hallway and ask a question. So does that mean it's a quick, instant message? Be very clear about that with the candidate or the new hire, so that they can be successful. So I really just wanted to talk a little bit about those tips and tricks. And then also, I think that the rest of the conversation is going to be tools that you can use from our team. But as you're kind of going through this conversation and you think that there's something that the greater group can benefit from, please go ahead and share those in the chat box.
All right, thank you, Courtney. So again, my name is Corey, and I am just going to speak a little bit here about career fairs and what we are doing in the age of coronavirus with career fairs. So clearly we can't have the large gatherings that we're used to with our large career fairs as of right now. And we don't know yet what the fall will look like, but we are planning for all scenarios. We're planning for the possibility that we might have more virtual events. And so we have been investigating platforms that will allow us to continue to have career fairs in a virtual space. So it won't be the typical large events that we're all used to, but there are a lot of good things that I think can come out of this. So virtual events are going to allow us to have a larger reach. You could potentially, as an employer, could potentially reach students that you might not be able to reach in person, right? We have a lot of students who are taking classes all over the country. So we have opportunities to have anybody attend our events now if we're doing them virtually. And if you have jobs all over the country, you can reach students who are potentially all over the country as well. So we're looking at different platforms that will allow employers to engage with students with video chat capabilities as well as just with chat capabilities. So more to come on exactly what that will look like. We do have an event on May 19th. It's a virtual recruiting event. It's going to be virtual, not the platform that we will have for the fall time, but we will be doing something, details to come if you register for that. So we are still looking for ways, and we are definitely going to make career fairs be great. They'll be a little bit different than what we are used to in person, but I think they'll have a larger reach, and we'll have more opportunity to connect. So virtual career fairs also give us more, give you more space to, when it comes to budgets, you don't have to worry as much about traveling, spending a lot of time, a lot of money traveling. So there's that aspect too. It's a lot easier to just log on to your computer from wherever you are. So there's that. They're also a little bit more sustainable. So the in-person career fairs come with they generate a lot of waste from travel and from food and from all the little knickknacks that people buy to give away and paper that is printed with all the information. So the virtual career fairs are a lot more sustainable as well. So we have a lot of options, and we'll still be able to maintain great connections between employers and students when it comes to the virtual career fair space. So we are now going to kick it over to Tori, and she's one of our on-campus recruiting coordinators. She's going to talk about on-campus interviews and job postings.
Thank you, Corey. Hello, everyone. I am a recruiting coordinator on the employer relations team, just like Corey said. So I'm just here, we're going to just highlight the importance of continuing to post job and internship positions, but also why it's still important to conduct not just interviews, but also possibly thinking about embedding virtual interviews into your recruitment efforts as well. So I first want to just dive in and just discuss why it's still important to keep actively posting. So especially now with social distancing and stay-at-home orders in place, every social platform is experiencing an influx, not in just activity, but also in users. So as you guys are posting your available opportunities on your website, on your careers page, also think about those alternative platforms, those networking, those recruitment platforms that you could also post these opportunities to. Because right now, a lot of candidates are still looking for those internship and those jobs, whether it might be this summer, now, or even possibly in the fall. So providing those additional platforms, having those opportunities available indicates to students that your organization is hiring, but it's also an opportunity for you to kind of increase that foot traffic because they know friends, they know colleagues, they even have family members that might be actively looking for an opportunity. So this is a great opportunity for even candidates just to share that your organization is hiring. So even here at Arizona State University, we are still having current students, recent grads, soon to be our May grads, and even alumni actively looking for jobs and even internships. Next, I just want to kind of highlight the importance of conducting those interviews, because even now, employers are still actively recruiting, especially in those industries that are kind of deemed essential and in higher need, like, for example, healthcare, health and wellness is a very an industry that we're seeing an increase in recruiting from, especially in like nursing positions, for example. So even our departments coming across new ways for recruiting and hiring that also do comply with these safety practices that are in place, just to make sure their employees stay healthy, those opportunities to possibly go remote instead as well, just to make sure everyone stays healthy and safe during this time. And as most of you know, interviews can be very nerve-wracking, especially if you can't offer that on-site or that in-person opportunity. So it is important just to set the expectations prior to that interview day, as you schedule that interview with students, just for them to know what those expectations are for the interview, making sure that they have all the resources that they need to be prepared and do well in their interview. Especially if students never had like technology embedded into their interviews in the past, this may be an increased stressor for them just because they are uncertain with how the technology will be working. So I just want to emphasize it's very important to set those expectations prior to the day of the interview. So when that day comes, the student is prepared, those stressors are kind of in the back of their mind, they're going to present them best selves, and they'll also be comfortable with that technology piece as well. So that's also a good way for them to kind of build that professional development up for them. And then lastly, just for employers to think about possibly embedding virtual interviews into the recruitment efforts as well. I first just wanted to highlight that Career and Professional Development Services is here to support all employers' recruitment efforts. So especially if you've never done virtual interviews in the past, or maybe you're interested in possibly what it looks like to host virtual interviews, feel free to contact our career services. We're here to answer any questions, help support you in that virtual space. So we're here to provide the technology piece. Also, we're here to help provide some of those tools and those tips to help make sure those virtual interviews run and are successful. And just something to consider between just having, for example, like phone interviews as compared to virtual, there are some additional incentives to possibly having those virtual, offering those virtual interviews. For the first one, I always love just building that relationship up. I think it's key to having a successful interview and helping build up those talent pipelines, because you still get to engage with students one-on-one. You still get to have that, unfortunately, you won't be able to have the on-site face-to-face interaction, but you still have that virtual interaction where you can put the name to the face. It's also kind of help students feel comfortable, especially if they've been engaging with a recruiter over email and they finally get to meet that recruiter virtually. That also does help build and make them feel comfortable, especially as they're moving forward in the recruitment process. This also kind of gives the student the opportunity to ask questions to the recruiter that they maybe didn't feel comfortable asking in their phone interview, or they didn't feel it was the best appropriate place. This also is a great way for students to ask questions about how your organization is handling COVID-19, especially those kind of questions are going to start coming across more and more in interviews. So also it's great for recruiters to kind of have experience and kind of know how they can best answer these questions without leaving candidates in the dark, making them feel uncertain in a way. And then lastly, offering those virtual interviews also gives you the opportunity to assess some of those key characteristics that you look at in on-site or even on-campus interviews, as for example, looking at facial features or even the level of engagement this candidate is giving you, just to determine their overall fit for that opportunity and also determine the overall fit for the organization. So you can also embed the company culture in a way into your virtual recruitment efforts as well. But just to emphasize, we're here to help support you guys' recruitment efforts in any way we can. So please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or any concerns.
Thanks, Tori. All right, we are now going to kick it over to Jam, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about information sessions and other virtual engagement options.
Thank you, Corey. Hi, everyone. Yes, so hosting a virtual recruiting event at ASU is easy to set up and very beneficial in that you're able to engage and interact with Sun Devils, build your brand awareness at ASU, and build more traction for your job and internship postings with great candidates. And also it benefits Sun Devils by allowing them the chance to connect with you and network with industry professionals, ask their questions, and learn about your opportunities. So during these uncertain times, students and alumni now more than ever really appreciate the chance to connect with you. That's something that we've been hearing. So you have the opportunity to hold a standalone virtual event or even a series of virtual events. And we would recommend your event to be interactive in nature. And it can be anything like a coffee chat or an information session with a Q&A at the end, or however you would like to title it and make it look. And I've seen employers post something like, join us and speak with an industry professional about how to navigate these uncertain times, or we are hiring for this work from home sales position, come chat with us and learn about it, or even something like, learn about our mission and our diversity and inclusion initiatives. So it can really be about the topic or the opportunities that you would like to highlight. You can easily create an event on Handshake, and we will send the link with instructions on how to do so in a follow-up email after this to all of the registrants. And I do know that some of you may be familiar with how to do it and have already been doing it over the last few weeks, which is great. We recommend planning it at minimum 2 weeks in advance. This allows more Sun Devils to have the chance to see it and for us to work out any kinks and just plan it out and surface it to more Sun Devils. We recommend that you have a very detailed description and title to make it very clear as to the nature of your event and what topic your event will cover. As for the location, you can use Zoom, WebEx, Ring Central, Facebook Live, or whichever virtual platform, as long as it's easy for Sun Devils to access. Also, please note that the virtual recruiting timeframe really transcends on-campus recruiting timeframes. Typically, if we were talking about on-campus recruiting, we would discourage it, those types of on-campus recruiting activities over the summer, since not many students would be on campus. But we encourage you to still recruit virtually in the months to come and fill your positions while building your brand awareness. We anticipate that students and alumni will still be actively looking at handshake events and actively searching throughout the summer. Also, be sure to keep an eye out in the events and fairs tab on Handshake for other online engagement opportunities with us, such as virtual fairs, as Corey discussed earlier in this presentation, as well as virtual employer panels and other such events. These are really great opportunities to be plugged into online events and interact with Sun Devils, and we anticipate more of these opportunities and events to be planned in the near future, so definitely keep an eye out for it. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're really here to support all of your recruiting activities, as Tori was saying. And if you have any questions, I look forward to answering them during the Q&A portion, or you can separately email me. And I look forward to answering any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jam. So we have had a couple of questions come through. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them through on the chat, and we'll try to get to all the ones that we can. So we did have a couple of questions about how virtual career fairs work, and depending upon what platform we end up selecting and which route we go, we will definitely be providing education to both students and employers before any of the fairs take place. So we'll probably create some Zoom sessions, and we'll probably create some collateral materials as well that we'll send out to everyone so that people will know exactly what to expect, how to log in. We'll have little mini training sessions, and for students and employers, so everybody will know what is happening on those days. So also some questions about the cost of virtual career fairs. So the cost for the fairs will depend upon the type of fair. We'll probably have several different types that we'll be doing. And we do have different career centers on campus too. Everybody has a little bit different rate for career fairs. For the most part, I would say they will be less expensive than the in-person events due to the fact that we won't have to pay for the catering and the room rentals and the parking. There will be fees, but they will vary depending upon the event. So again, those will be posted in Handshake, and we'll have pricing set as soon as we do have all of that available. So the May 19th event is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific time. That question was coming through. So, let's see here. And another couple questions. Will there be in-person events in the fall on campus? Again, we don't know yet. We are following the direction from our university and our university president. So right now we have no in-person events until June 30th on campus, and we will definitely, as we know more, we will definitely share with all of you as well. Let's see if there's any other questions. Question about, let's see here, virtual internships. Courtney, would you like to talk about that for a little bit, how people can pivot to virtual internships?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I had mentioned in the very beginning, there were quite a few employers that pivoted towards virtual internships. And I'll be fully transparent that this generation of non-traditional students are very well prepared for the virtual internship experience. So to that point, we know that students would actually prefer a virtual internship rather than a canceled internship. Now, there's also a reality that there's some learning experiences that need to take place in person that a virtual modality may not be able to supplement. But there's lots of different ways to think through a virtual experience, and we have a virtual internship guide that can support that. And the different places then that you might need to maybe change some of the ways you're delivering the internship experience to the student. And so in our follow-up email, we will be able to share that. Now, maybe you're thinking that you're not able to change from a virtual internship. You're not able to change from an in-person internship to a virtual internship, and what other ways you can maybe get involved. And there's different ways that you can get involved, including maybe thinking through different projects. So maybe you've connected with students already and you want to offer them different projects, different pieces like that. That again, that virtual internship guide will be able to support you in that conversation of being able to transition from that in-person experience. So Corey, I know as she sends out the follow-up email, she'll share that guide with you as well.
Thanks, Courtney. Let's see, we have another question. Are there any resources that we know of to help students that might not have equipment or resources to work remotely? So the university does have a lot of resources to help students out. They even have available hotspots that students can get actually by going to the library. So there is on the ASU website, and I will include this in the follow-up email just for anybody to know, but there is a lot of information available for students on what they can do to receive equipment or any other assistance that they might need if they are having problems working remotely. So we do have that available. Let's see here.
Corey, I will just add that those resources are very limited though.
Okay.
That as you're looking to maybe turn something to a more virtual modality, I would prepare for that, and that the expectation would, if you're going to offer something in terms of an internship, the expectation would fall on you as the employer to make sure that that student would have access to any type of software, or if there's going to be something like a computer that's needed. Obviously, there's going to be a computer needed, but any kind of anything like that, any technology that you would have to support that as an employer. So that's something to consider as well.
Okay, we'll do one last question. What is Career Services doing to stay connected with students? So we do have available on our website we have information for students on how they can stay connected and what kind of resources that we can provide virtually, which also directs them to how they can apply for jobs through Handshake, how they can remain connected, and we are still trying to keep them connected and let them know that there are employers that are hiring out there and how they can find all of that information. So our website has an entire section of virtual resources, and we are working to maintain connections with students so that they still know that we are here for them for career services. So
before the pandemic, our team was very well positioned. We had offered all of our services in a virtual modality anyway. So everything from serving our students and alumni, and of course our employers, we were really well prepared for this moment. And so again, to Corey's point, we will surface that website that we have developed to make sure students and alumni and employers have that one place that they can go to during this time. But yes, students and alumni has been no disruption of service to them.
all right, and that wraps up our time that we have here today. So again, if you do have any more questions and we weren't able to get to a few, we'll respond to those via email. I've put up our email address up here. Feel free to reach out anytime, and we will be sending out a follow-up email with information that we discussed today, with links and all of that good stuff, so that you can remain connected with us throughout this time. So thank you for joining us, and please do let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Have a good day.